It's good, man.
Yo,
It's all good.
appreciate it, bro.
Anytime.
Yes, sir.
Anytime. So,
First and foremost, bro, I want to say thank you
ah,
for taking the opportunity to sit down and having a conversation with me. Because not everybody can say that they've had the opportunity to sit down with somebody who they idolized as a sports figure growing up.
right.
And I'm talking like, you just had to be there. I'm talking 21 jersey,
Yep.
rolled up, your shoulder pads, abs sticking out, visor, back flap hanging, and in with the talent.
Right.
Every young black football player in the state of Florida wanted to be Fred Taylor, including me. And then I find myself being able to watch you evolve into this media giant that you've become, which is also a space that I dabble in,
Right.
media. And not only to have that conversation in a cigar lounge, like, hey bro, like I wanna do this, for my idol to say, yeah, let's do it. For my idol to actually invest that time into someone.
Right.
You know, not everybody has that opportunity, so that's why I say thank you.
No, you know, anytime, first and foremost, I mean, that's just naturally who I am. I try and make sure I find, there's multiple ways you can give back.
Uh-huh.
You know, obviously, time is the most valuable thing that, or the most valuable commodity that all of us have. And it's really invaluable in a sense, because there's no way you can get it back. You can always get money. You can always get jewels and jewelry, homes, cars. You can always get the superficial stuff. Time is the one thing you can never replace or get back. So for me, that's also a way to give back. A lot of times, you know, people who are in our position, you know, athletes, celebrities, or whatever, like they tend to make themselves busier than they really are. And granted, obviously, you know, I think what comes with it is sometimes people just want to be able to slow down. So instead of doing something like this, they might say, well, no, I don't have time, because that, you know, it might be their outlet to get some rest or
Right.
travel. And I get it. I respect everyone's time. But for me, it's a situation where, one, I respect you. I see what you're trying to do. And for me to extend myself, and this isn't overextending. This is just extending myself and carving out, you know, some time to make this happen. I would say, going back to the opening, I don't see myself as a media giant. I see myself as still growing.
Growing, for sure.
You know, but I want to learn. I do want to grow in this space.
Giants get bigger.
Right, for sure. And it's not something that, you know, I never had a passion for it, right? I never thought it would be something I would be doing. But now that I'm here, yeah, I do want to be the best. I want to be better than I was coming into it. Will I ever be the best? I don't know. I doubt it, but I do have a way with communicating. And everybody have different ways to be able to communicate. You know, I look at RC on our show. I mean, RC he try to pull the best out of all of us. You know, and I think not being the one who wants to take the credit, I don't care who gets the credit, none of us do. And it makes it easier for me to, you know, tuck myself in right next to RC and want to learn. And the other part of the opening was that with the visor, the back flap, the whole thing at University of Florida, I think I inspired not only the black kids, obviously that's our demographic, and that's, you know, me inspiring you and everyone that came up in your area alike. I think, you know, across the board, I try to serve as an inspiration for, one, the people that look like me,
Absolutely.
people that look like us, but also I've come across others that would have that same message and that same childhood, you know, thought that you just shared in terms of an inspiration. And it always made me feel like, all right, I got to keep going, but I got to do it the right way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know I'm not perfect, but I got to try to be the best example that I can be for those that look up to me.
Now, you said something, we'll double back to it. Host of the Pivot podcast. You host that with RC Ryan Clark and Shannon Crowder. It's, you know, a lot of people don't even watch TV anymore. Y'all have about 289 episodes.
That's the wildest thing. That's the wildest thing, man. Sorry for cutting you off, but I just wanted to jump in real quick because it still trips me out that I grinded and I played football 13 years in the NFL, 4 years in college. That's 17 years of in your face every weekend for 6 months at a time, whatever. I get more notoriety now because of the podcast than I ever did in those 17 years of playing football on nationally televised games, a worldwide, televised sport in football. But I do understand it. People aren't, some people can't afford like cable subscriptions and all that different stuff. And the model has changed from how we grew up when you had the big floor model and then they raised it off the ground and you were stuck and glued there. Everything's mobile, it's in your pocket.
Yeah.
So I'd rather, be able to save money by just having a data plan, being able to go on YouTube, which is where our show is on YouTube. So majority of, the viewers and people that watch the show is in their back pocket. So I get it, but it's just a trip sometimes that people will come up and say, "You that guy from YouTube."
So
don't know nothing about my football career, but it's all good.
And so I'll piggyback off of that because our Prime Freddie was different, but that only touched a certain segment of people.
For sure.
Prime Freddie, the media guy, touches a whole different demographic, like a larger segment of people, because now y'all are interviewing Olympians. Y'all are interviewing music producers. Y'all are also athletes. So it touches like a larger scale of people, and a different scale of people. My son, 9 years old, he knows who Fred Taylor is. He doesn't know who Fred Taylor, the football player, is, but he knows, Fred Taylor, that's the guy who interviewed C.J. Stroud. You know what I'm saying? But in the society we live in now, my son, he's on YouTube right now, probably.
My son, same thing.
He's really
That's
into
what the kids do. They watch others play video games.
Absolutely. He has all his devices out all at one time, and like, son, you don't want to play the video games. You want to watch somebody else play it.
I gotta get good. I gotta do this. They sit there and watch. I tell my kids all the time, man, like, these people are making money off you. Like, you're giving them views and streams. They making money. They gotta keep doing it. I said, you can do the same thing. All you need is a rig, your setup or whatever. I invest in that for you. You gotta learn to do the rest. But if you're gonna sit here and watch them, you can make a video. This is just how crazy the world is. You can make a video of streaming of yourself watching somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's everything so overlapping right now. And there's so many different ways to get to the bag. It's just like, you just gotta be creative in it.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Everything not a scam, they come down to creativity until they put a lock on it and tell you, nah, you can't do that no more. But we've seen that before, but that's a whole different episode.
So a few things I want to congratulate you on. All your recent successes with where you're at as far as the Hall of Fame, and we'll touch on that.
Right.
But also more what we're speaking on is your success, y'all's success with the pivot. Like y'all took it and y'all grew it. And I always like to say the pandemic, it taught people a lot of things. It taught and like we jokingly say this, but if it's in you, the pandemic will get it out of you.
Right.
Because if it doesn't, it's probably not in you. Because we had to move around different during the pandemic. The world literally came to a screeching halt. And so we had to figure it out. And then people started podcasting. And the stories that we always want to hear come from the people that we idolize, that we look up to. And y'all started one, and then you pivoted into a different direction. And then once that pivot happened, it went to another level. So my question would be, it's like, how do you know when it's time to pivot?
That's a great question.
Because y'all often ask people, what was your greatest pivot?
Right.
And I'll ask you that as well. How do you know when it's time to pivot?
That's the one thing that the pandemic taught us. I think all of us had to pivot, coming out of the pandemic. And the world changed too, at the same time, from working away from home to now Zoom meetings and all those different things. So the world had to pivot. And that's why our show and naming it The Pivot was it just kind of fell in our lap because we were forced to pivot on the business side of things. And from there, just looking for a name, something to name our show. It's like, it's The Pivot. That's what everybody's doing right now. And everybody has to pivot at some point in their lives. So I think that because everyone has to pick a moment in their lives to pivot, when it's time to pivot, you'll feel it. It's just one of those things that's you can force it. For us, we were just tired of the same old thing. And usually, as a human being, when you're fed up with something, yourself or others, you pivot. If you don't like the way something is going, you pivot. If you don't like the way you're feeling, that gut instinct, then you pivot. And that's just a natural human instinct, right? I think one of our greatest instincts as human beings is one, survival. We're gonna find a way to survive, right? And really, the other one is pivoting. So, and I know that could sound redundant or overlapping, but it's really simple. It's just a matter of you following through with it. Even young kids, like my son right now, trying to figure out his life and what he wants to do, I say don't press. You'll feel it. You'll get tired of making the same mistakes or getting the same results, and you'll find that discipline in yourself, and you'll make it happen. So, yeah, I think that's the simple answer. You'll feel it when it's the right time to pivot.
In that same episode, it was asked, what was your greatest pivot, the most difficult pivot, your greatest pivot up to that point? And I believe your answer was, changing your life at that point where you were. You were in Miami, just a young, immature football player is kind of what I got out of it.
Right.
That was your greatest pivot at that point. If I were to sit here and ask you right now, other than that, what was your greatest pivot? What would that be?
You know what? I think I've had, we all can have multiple pivots.
We pivoted our whole
on top
lives.
of, right? I think the initial moment was in 1996, the year we won the first national championship at the University of Florida. I was being immature, hanging out, running around campus. I got into a situation where I was about to be suspended for 4 or 5 games, and just doing knucklehead stuff on campus. And I remember my grandmother called me when the situation was going down. We was kind of waiting to hear from the school and them making their decision. And she told me, look, I need you to pull out your Bible, go to Psalms 127. We're going to pray on the situation, and I want you to read this every day. And that's what I did. I ended up doing what she said. Then we ended up hearing back from the school, and what they said was, instead of expelling you, we're going to just suspend you for 4 games. And Coach Spurrier, who never really vouches, for the players, he's like, hey guys, I need you to do 2 things: be great athletes, get your grades. All that other stuff, I'm not dealing with it. Jokingly he said, but it was the truth.
Right.
And so when the judicial board had a meeting, he actually went to bat for me to try to get the games removed altogether, because he knew the type of person I was. Now, I never caused problems. I was yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, humble. You know what I'm saying? So when he went to bat for me to try to get the games reduced, not that because they could have used me. We had a great talent. In '96, we won the national championship.
Yes.
So that year, I ended up getting the suspension reduced from 4 games to 3. And at that moment, I realized I wasn't gonna come out that year, my junior year, because I had plans before the season to come out and go pro that year, and that didn't happen. And then my buddies went pro, Riedel and Ike. They ended up going pro. Ike was a top 10 pick, number 7, and Reed was like 16 to Tampa, and we were all gonna come out. But I was forced to stay because that was God talking to me. That was God giving me my pivot, right? So he was like, hey, you ain't going nowhere. I got other plans for you. But I missed the first 3 games, so I didn't have a great season. So it forced me to come back my senior year. And, you know, I could say that phone call, getting in trouble, and then having that talk with my grandmother, and then reading that Psalms verse out of the Bible, that was my big first initial pivot. Because if that didn't happen, I would be back in Belgrade on the corner, probably just doing what everybody else do.
Right.
And we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. So that was my first pivot to keep me able to do what I, you know, had a passion for. And when that was being competitive, playing football. So that was my biggest pivot, I would say, because the next year I came back as a senior, had the backfield pretty much all to myself. And then that's when the world got a chance to see me, the scouts, the teams. I had over 1,300 yards. I had big games, the last 3-4 games of my senior year that set a lot of records at the University of Florida. Yeah, my other pivot was getting married. You know, I used to run hard, man. Like 4, not just on the field, you know, 5-6 days a week in Miami in the off season. We at the club, we on South Beach just getting it in. And you know, when I got within my girlfriend and my fiance, like, we got to scale that back,
Right.
Because I was getting injured and not knowing that, wearing my body out from being out there, not physically, but just fatiguing myself, hanging out, drinking, being dehydrated, not knowing it. And then that kind of scaled back when she's like, nah, like you shouldn't hang out that much. And she kind of helped me, well, not kind of, she helped me change the trajectory of my career. And I had a long period of time where I didn't get injured at all, because I now was getting rest, getting proper nutrition, being at the crib with her, and everything just kind of ascended. So that was another big pivot that also put me back in the conversation for potential Hall of Fame stuff.
Well, oh man, so let's kind of jump on that. Potential Hall of Fame, you made the cut of 50.
Right.
And we've been here before,
Yeah.
for the past 5 years. But last year, you made it to the final, like the finalist.
Right.
And unfortunately, you didn't make it.
Right.
We're going to speak this into existence. So when you make it, class of 2025 Hall of Fame, what does that mean to Fred Taylor?
I mean, you know what's crazy is, respectfully, I say I don't necessarily look at I'm thankful to be a part of the 50. But before I would find myself running to see the results as they came out, I understood that they came out. I got a congratulatory text from several people. And in my mind, like, you know, thank you. But in the past, I would have gone to look. The release was out. Did I make it? Did I make it? Now it's different, right? So many guys are deserving on that list, first and foremost. What's the criteria to achieve each point going forward? No one really knows. It's up to the selectors. And I think because I never always played the game to become a Hall of Famer, more so than being out there just competing and really trying to have fun and win a Super Bowl. I think if I had done it the other way around, I probably would be a Hall of Famer by now. Sometimes you have to scare the hell out yourself in order to achieve your goals. That's at least that's how I operate. I never did that for a while. I was on cruise control. But I guess to answer your question though, E, is, I mean, obviously at this point, because I've been there in those conversations for a few years now, it would mean the world to finally cement, that legacy. It would be something that can never be taken away. Eternally, you would be enshrined with a group of the best that have ever attempted to play one of the greatest sports that was ever created. So that would be extreme or elite company to be, laid next to for eternity. So my kids, and their kids
That's
can see
forever.
it. Right. So it will mean the world. And again, I'm a firm believer in God's timing is the best.
Yep.
It's solely out of my control. And I lost control of it in 2011 when I officially shut it down. I think I had a good career. Could have done some things differently to have a great career, but I don't have any regrets on it. And that's by my standards. Yeah, it would be awesome. Like, it would be probably one of my highest achievements next to, my children.
You got guys like Jim Brown and Deion Sanders vouching for you. You mentioned the voters. I feel like guys who, your peers, the guys who've actually done it should have more say-so on who goes as opposed to the writers.
Right.
Do you think that kind of takes away of why you haven't been selected yet? Because the people that really know aren't really the ones that are in control of it.
You know what? To their credit, they study the game.
Yeah.
They are so that's the conversation like the public likes to have, where they're like, all right, should I get my information from someone who hadn't played? Should I, if this person is analyzing the game, which is a career, right? Journalism is a career, and being an analyst, like, you go study the amount of work that you have to put in and interviews you have to conduct. It's like a scientific research, right? That psychologists, sociologists, everybody has to go back and do their research and then come back with their hypothesis and theories and all that stuff. Similar to journalism and sports analysis. And even the voters, like, they go and study. They put you up against history is what they're doing. Now, that doesn't always speak to a certain set of criteria. Like, there's not a checklist of criteria. And they have a tough job, because when it comes down to that final 15, what I learned last year,
Yeah.
when you're in the room and now they're hearing your argument, or they're hearing why you belong versus why not, or why you deserve to be in there over this person, that person, and that person, the margin for error is so thin in that argument. I understand it, man. Like, they have a tough job to do versus our peers. Yes, I will have situations where our peers don't always study us like that.
Right. Because it can be a contest of, I like this guy, so yeah, I want this guy.
Yeah, our peers don't always study, but they do know how you made them feel on game day. They do know how you made them feel the day before the game.
That's your whole way.
When I get text messages from Ray Lewis saying, little bruh, I'm still up. I know we're gonna get it in tomorrow. I'm still up. Like, I'm fine tuning.
Yeah.
We're gonna make this thing fun and sweet. Like, and then coming away from the game, you're like, man, I lost 3-4 hours of sleep thinking about this. To hear those things from legendary players like that, and even to go through it in real time, I'm sitting over there like, I'm doing the same thing. I'm ready. I'm locked in. I know we're gonna bring the best out of each other. But it's an extreme honor to hear my peers, just even guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame, talk about what I brought to the table, and how we competed against each other. And then the guys that are in there that actually played against the Ray Lewis, the Ed Reeds, the Derrick Brooks, Warren Saps, John Lynch. I mean, I'm just naming defensive guys, right? To hear them talk about what I brought to the table, and the amount of attention I demanded. Nobody said we had to stop the Jaguars pass game for a while, and that's not a knock to our quarterbacks, because I had some really good quarterbacks that were teammates of mine.
It's good receivers
But
as well.
and receivers as well. What they said was if we stop the run, because percentage-wise, the offense went through me. Like when you really crunch the numbers, it all went through me. And a lot of times we went as I went, you know. So that was an additional load I had on myself, and I always welcome those opportunities. Um, but again, not to get overly long-winded, it's certainly an honor to hear everybody that has a gold jacket speak in my favor through this campaign moment to try and get the can.
To continue to talk on football, what state do you think the game is in right now? And when I say that, I mean considering NIL when it comes to college, considering Little League ball, because Little League ball is a thing. It's huge. Those kids are traveling. They're practicing 4 times a week.
Right.
It's really expanded, both for the better and the worse, because then there's stories that you can read where I think the parents kind of make it difficult.
Yeah.
So what do you think the state of Little League ball, college ball, and even the NFL is right now?
Well, the game, it's just the evolution of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that we hadn't seen in our lifetime. And they're just gonna, it's kind of, you know, it's rough and ragged, you know, upon the onset the last couple of years, but it's gonna eventually smooth itself out. It's gonna bring more, obviously more attention, more interest to the sport. I think the sport is gonna always be in good hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why the NFL, being the leader in the sport of football, they have taken initiative to increase player safety, increase the awareness around player safety. Now, when we all die off, right, like that generation of knowing football for what it was, because even as we grew up around the game, we can look at old footage and say, man, them motherfuckers is crazy. Like they missing teeth.
Yeah.
They got a single bar face mask.
The
They
way
get
they're
punched in the eye.
throwing their body,
The pads was tiny and wooden leather helmet. The game evolved, right? And it's just like technology. Technology is going to forever evolve. If you're not ready for it, then you're going to think something's wrong with it. Even going into AI and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not ready or prepared to make the move with it or evolve with it, you're just gonna be left behind. You're gonna always complain about it. Same thing with football. And NIL, if you complain about it, you're gonna be left behind. You have to find a way to make those necessary adjustments and get in line.
Okay.
Because it ain't going anywhere.
Right.
It's only gonna evolve. They've made a set of precedent. And they just got to find a way to smooth off the rough edges. Now, they have a revenue sharing model that's about to take place that's supposed to attempt to smooth out the entire NIL landscape. And again, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but that's the next wave. That eventually they can look at how aggressive NIL was, how the formula sort of, along with the transfer portal, you know, the effectiveness of that. Let's take that and try and clean that out, create a certain set of guideline where this can happen, but this can't happen at the same time. You know, we can't use the we can't use the portal to be a negotiating tool or a leverage tool to bully for additional NIL funds. And some schools, the NCAA have left it up to the schools to sort of vet that and police that themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's come down to the universities. And that's sort of sparked a shift for the revenue sharing model between the universities, the NCAA. Now, my most concern obviously always is Little League. What are they seeing?
Yeah.
What are the parents teaching?
Yeah.
You know, what are the coaches at that level teaching?
Right.
Because everybody thinks that their child is going to be the next Hall of Famer, NFL player.
Yeah.
They're shooting their shot to get that 30, 40, $50 million deal across all sports. Take basketball, just a quick pivot for a second. Take basketball, for example. people are actually holding their children back.
Yeah, reclassifying. Reclassification.
That's a bullshit way of saying. We grew up saying we want to be double promoted.
Yeah, yeah. You want to
How fast can we graduate high school? Can we graduating at 16 was impressive.
Absolutely.
Now you're saying I want to hold my child back as long as the state is cool with letting him be 99 years old and can play on the high school level. You cool with that?
Right.
Because in your mind you believe, one, from a physical standpoint, he's not good enough to compete with the people in his class. Well, if that's the case, then I got bad news for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, when they get to that level, what do you think these other kids
At
are?
some point, it's going to equal out. It's
Correct.
It's
Like,
going to equal out.
if you believe that they're going to come to the pros and people going to take it easy on it because they come in at 22 now as opposed to 20, they still have a good chance of getting their ass kicked or not being competitive enough to make it. Right? So, but to each, obviously, to each his own. And it could have other agendas, but I just don't necessarily agree with the keeping
The reclassification.
Man, that's a bullshit term. But yeah, that's just 2 cents on that. But football is going to be in good hands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fred, something that we both have in common, like we've known each other for a long time, but to me, I feel like we've gotten closer because of something that we have in common. My mother, your grandmother, those are two women that raised us, who, my mom is the reason who I am. And I know you speak highly of your grandmother.
Right.
I lost my mom a year ago yesterday. And whenever I lost my mom, like I was able to confide in you,
Right.
because not too long before you recently lost your grandmother. And I wouldn't say that I've pivoted, but I'm in the process of pivoting. When I say that, what I mean is dealing with that adversity. How do you normally deal with adversity? Because throughout your career, you know, you've had a long NFL career. Now you're in this media space where there could be roadblocks and adversity everywhere you go. How do you normally deal with that to keep your mental?
Well, my grandmother was my biggest motivation, you know, my entire life. Excuse me. My mom was more like my sister. She had me at a young age, still figuring out life and all that stuff. So we had a different type of relationship. My grandmother raised me majority of my early life and through high school and all that. And my mom and I, we developed our own unique relationship. But my grandma was, she like Big Mama, like she took care of all the kids. And so I felt a sense of obligation to give back to her by making it. I made a promise to her that I would buy her home even when I didn't know how I would do it. But I did it. And yeah, so going forward, you know, she was my world. And a lot of everything what I did was for her. So when she was diagnosed with dementia, and as the years went, I realized like she's here, she's not living, she's just existing. So I tried my best to cherish those moments, tap in on all the memories, which is what I have now. You know, going in my phone, being able to look back on the memories, early life, the later, you know, as she started to decline in health, all those moments, really it still drives me to do right by her and make sure I keep the family together, which I think we've all gotten closer since we lost her officially on Halloween of last year. Would be a year since she passed. So, you know, I wish she was here to experience the day that I do hear my name called in Canton. And I believe it's safe to say that. But, you know, I understand life's progression and that we won't be here forever. at least not now, but science is amazing and they're developing all these different technologies to advance lifespans. But where we are now, I understand it, you know, and I was prepared for it. She prepared us for it. Dementia's I hate to say it, it's a slow death. But in that, she prepared us for it, and you're never really prepared for the actual day you think you are. And then when it happens, like it really hits you. But over the course of time, I think her death reminded us of what family really is. Like it helped us kind of recalibrate ourselves as a unit. And we text to start off the day every morning since she's been gone. All of us tap in with a I love you and encouraging each other to you know, fulfill our dreams and keep moving forward. So that was a big pivot. That was a big pivot for all of us.
That's the forced pivot that y'all spoke on before.
Right. So, but yeah, so keeping things in perspective, like it just, you know, it's life. A lot of times we're not always ready to deal with it, but I'd rather have it, have had it that way than to lose her abruptly. Now I do understand she struggled. Well, she didn't struggle because dementia, like I said, it's a slow, unfriendly death. So there weren't any real like struggles per se. She didn't feel pain per se. We knew she kind of peacefully transitioned. But really, my motivation really is just to see that the kids, my children, understand who she was and what she did for me and what I'm trying to do for them.
Now, being a host of a podcast, y'all have had a plethora of guests, the range is diverse. I won't ask you who was your favorite guest, because it's hard to choose. I will ask, what piece of advice kind of resonated from you that you've learned from one of the many guests, or even
That's a
multiple?
great question. Yeah, because the favorite guest question,
It's tough.
it wouldn't be as tough, but I can't really speak right now on
Right.
a
There is a favorite.
a recent taping actually
Okay.
just made it my favorite. But if we were, you know, doing this post that drop, I could actually share with you because I don't know the timing of this. So
Right.
that's what complicates
Okay,
that
right.
thing. But my favorite episode obviously was Michael Beasley.
Yes.
That sort
I remember you
of
said
laid the
that.
foundation for who we could be and what we can do as the Pivot Podcast. Just the vulnerability, transparency, and everything that came from the episode. It was like, all right, this is our lane. And we tapped into and fed into that. Unlike other sports podcasts that are usually loud and boisterous and just kind of fun.
Y'all
And
had
I'm not knocking,
conversations.
it's fun. These are in-depth conversations and it triggers things.
Absolutely.
Right? So we're more of a lifestyle podcast than just a sports podcast. And we carved that space out for ourselves. So that was my favorite episode. I think the one thing that I learned the most about, the one thing that I take as a favorite thing from all of our episodes is that, you know, the ability to be a man while also remain vulnerable, show those vulnerabilities, being transparent in doing that. Because the amount of people that we help or the messages that we receive from creating the space that we created, I think we all cherish that we are able to be free and be that. So the life lessons from all of our guests, we take those and we try and put those, you know, in our lives in some sort of way. But yeah, the message is always transparency, vulnerability, and really just giving back. So all of our guests have shown us that. They've shared that with us. We just want to take it and run with it and keep growing.
And so I'll leave you with this, like a message that I take away from the Pivot podcast, one that resonates with me a lot is there's a viral clip that goes around that my friend sends me a lot. And it's of Channing, and he's talking about checking in on your strong friends.
Yeah.
People will DM that to me all the time because I'm known as that ball of energy, that smiling face, that
Right.
sacrifice my happiness for your happiness. And that resonates with me because sometimes you kind of forget who you are,
Right.
and people will remind you just checking in on you. My brother Cliff, he gave me a gratitude log, and I don't write it every day or every morning,
Right.
as much as I would like to, but I take advantage of it a lot, and I took advantage of it this morning. And what I wrote was, just being thankful with yesterday being a very significant day for me, being thankful for what I got, but also just thankful for your mentorship, your brotherhood, and also your friendship. Because like I said, not everyone has a chance to be able to text their role model.
Right.
And not everyone has that opportunity to have that conversation. I remember randomly, I don't know, a couple months ago, I tore my Achilles.
Right.
And about a month later, you just randomly sent me some pictures of us.
Right.
Told me that you were thinking of me.
Right.
Stuff like that is checking in on your strong friends. So I truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate you investing your time
Right.
with me, sitting down and having this conversation. And I look forward to seeing you grow and evolve even into a bigger giant than you already
I
are.
appreciate it.
And I look to continue to follow in those footsteps, bro.
Man, I appreciate those words, bruh. And that's what you have to do. That's why it's important to have the space that we've created. That clip of Channing speaking about checking in with your strong friends came from the episode when we talked about, losing my grandmother. And she was still here at the time, but Channing's right. Sometimes people see the outside and think the inside is cool. Whether that's from a mental health or just a physical health standpoint. So it is important to check on those loved ones, check on those that kind of float in and keep a smile on their face to sort of hide the pain that they're feeling. And people adapt and they become good at it. For me, bro, like reaching out to you to check in and make sure you were good, dealing with your mom and then being hit again with an injury that can put you down, and just learning how to manage it, that can drive a person to a space where, one, they don't want to be, and sometimes it's hard to come out of it. And sometimes it can even trigger, a depression where you can really slump on life. And I don't want anybody to ever be in that mindset. So if any little thing can spark any sort of positive interest for people that I know, or even that I don't know, to a total stranger who might have followed me at some point in life, I always lead with optimism, positivity. I'm not perfect, but I try my best to encourage those to pivot. And I'm saying it for the show, but this is real life. Even going back to 2006, when I picked up a senator from Chicago, a junior senator from Chicago by the name of Barack Obama. When I picked up his book, The Audacity of Hope, Thoughts of Reclaiming the American Dream. And it wasn't so much about reclaiming the American dream for me at that point in time, because I wasn't into politics like that. I'm still not. But I do know right from wrong. I do know what compassion looks like, empathy, sympathy.
Yeah.
I do know what being optimistic looks like, and I do believe in people. So when you extend yourself, when you were able to say, man, bro, I'm a big fan, bro, I followed you here and there, and be intentional about it, I said, you know what, and not be overly,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you respectful of my time, my space, and all of that. Like, this is somebody I can always tap in with and holler at, because one, you never ask for nothing. Two, you lead with good energy, positivity, and you want to learn and grow as well. And that automatically shifts my mindset to that of a mentor, a big brother. And we don't have to talk each and every day.
Right.
But when we do, I hope that it's impactful in some sort of way. And I hope that it gives you a sense of energy to say, I can make something happen. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's anybody that I come across. I always try to want to help in some form or fashion. Like when Terrence, when we, you know what I'm saying, we chop it up.
Yeah.
Even then, back then in
The
night
advice.
club or wherever we was, like, go try this. You know, if it don't work, you know, but at least, you know, just look at it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't have all the answers, but if I got something, I ain't sitting on it. I'm gonna try my best to give it back and hope that it worked for you as it worked for me, or however that looks like. But yeah, man, that's just God's work, bro. I ain't never trying to be negative. I believe in people more than they believe in themselves a lot of the time. So that's what you're gonna always get from me at the end of the day.
That being said, bro, again, I appreciate the love, the support. Keep creating that blueprint for me and those who are like me, who want to continue to grow, not just in the media space, but as a young black man in America. So
Oh, of course.
keep it up, man.
That's the way, bro.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.